Do you genuinely not know who the Beatles are?
Genuinely.
Then I'm in a really, really, really complicated situation.
So the movie never really explains why people forgot the Beatles, among other things, I guess. Do you have a sense of why? And was Jack spared just because of when his accident was?
Yeah, I think it's basically the fact that he was knocked unconscious at the same point that it happened. And so for some reason he didn't get shifted into this weird universe in the same way that everyone else did. In terms of the provenance of the whole blackout, it's one that me and Lily would often think about on set. We'd be like, what, are they going to explain at any point what happened? But there's a kind of, I think there's a beauty to that because it's kind of, it leaves it open to interpretation and to kind of going, okay, well, we wonder why, what is it, and what could have happened.
What happened?
Electricity flicked off all over the world.
Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
When did you write that?
I didn't write it. Paul McCartney wrote it, the Beatles.
Who?
Speaking to interpretation, there's a little part of it too where it's like, you know, Jack's a little guilty about what he's doing. But in some sense, you're like, can you blame him? But in some sense, you're like, yes, you can totally blame him.
Right.
Where do you come down on it?
He's sharing the songs. I think there's never a question really. As soon as he realizes that, you know, he is the only guy, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to start playing them and trying to remember them. And where that leads him, he's not really thinking about. He's just kind of trying to share them with people and get them back out into the world. And then, of course, it just escalates. You know, Ed Sheeran takes him to Moscow, and then his manager kind of, you know, takes him to LA, and he says, I'm going to take the chalice. And I guess it's because it's what he's always wanted to do, but he doesn't realize that it's ripping him away from the most important person in his life. And that's what's going to drive him crazy, is not only the guilt of suddenly becoming world famous off the back of songs he didn't write, but it's that he's being pulled away from the grounding force in his life.
I think he's probably sort of, in some sense, too, thinks like, oh, maybe I can use this as an entree into the world, and then I can put my own songs.
Which we have that moment where he
Yes.
tries to play the summer song to Deborah, and she hilariously puts him down, which was a Kate McKinnon improvisation, by the way. Yeah.
You are sort of like the Mozart to Ed Sheeran's Salieri a little bit in this movie. Did you experience any like Sheeran mania when you guys were filming, like offset? Like, did he have groups of girls waiting to yell at him?
No. He manages to live a very normal life considering his level of fame and success. You know, he manages to keep things very grounded. You know, to the point where one day we were in Liverpool shooting, and we went out for dinner at this restaurant. It was a quiet restaurant, but it was like just a handful of us, and just one person asked him for a photo on the way out. Otherwise, we just kind of. And I remember we were getting in a car, and it was just by the street. We got in the car, and this girl walked past, and she was like, "Oh my God, was that?" And then her mate was like, "No, it wasn't." And they just carried on walking. So it was like,
Why would he be here?
Yeah, why would? So,
Let me just give you this advice. Song title: Hey Dude.
Hey Dude, are you sure?
Hey dude.
It's so much better.
What did you learn from working with Danny Boyle and Richard Curtis that we might not expect, or that you didn't know you might going in?
with Danny, it's that he's so present with you in terms of emotion. You know, he watches. You never see him sitting down on set, for one. I don't think I saw him sat down once. But he has this, like, he doesn't watch on a big monitor. He watches on a little monitor like that, and he watches like that. And then when he comes to give you a note, he's really feeling it with you. When we were shooting the scene at Liverpool Lime Street between Jack and Ellie, it's a very emotionally, raw scene. When he was coming to give us notes, you could tell he was emotional. He was kind of, he was feeling it with us. And that was something that really kind of, it really inspired me in a way to kind of give him my best, because he's feeling it, he's there with us. So that was a really kind of unexpected kind of addition to his general vibe of collaboration. And with Richard, it's just that he was ever present. You know, he was there every day, which, you know, maybe someone of his status may just kind of be like, oh no, don't worry, I don't want to be. He was committed. He was there every day, and was ready to kind of help at the drop of a hat if we needed help with something, or if he wanted to rewrite something, you know. And that's a very generous place to be coming from. So, yeah.
Speaking of learning, you did hundreds of episodes of EastEnders. What does working on something for that long or for that many episodes like teach you as an actor or help you hone?
You learn to learn lines very quickly because things change very quickly and you have a lot of lines to learn. But collaboration is key because you're working with the same crew for years, you're working with the same actors for years, and you learn that you can't do any of it on your own, that you're in the hands of the people around you, and that what you give to them you get back in return, you know, tenfold in a way, and that you can't just, you know, swan onto set and act like you're the center of the world, because you're not, you know. Yes, it's important to look after yourself if you're going to be in front of a camera, but also you can't do any of it without the people behind the camera either. So it's a completely collaborative experience, which Danny knows in the way he runs his set is very much in that vein. So
I imagine there's been people that have worked on EastEnders or have worked with Danny for years and years and years, and it's like the same people that keep coming back.
Yes, yeah.
People that are just, yeah, that's their day
because
job.
people want to work with Danny again, you know, because they had a good time working with him. You know, people have a choice in this industry of who they work with, I think, and that goes to show.
You were recently cast in Armando Iannucci's Avenue 5. What can you tell us about that? And I mean, I know it's sort of like you're a space-bound stand-up.
Yes.
On a cruise ship.
Yeah.
You know, what do you know about that? When do you start filming?
I started recently. I did a week recently, and it was a really fun week. It was, you know, I was working with everyone in the cast for those few days, so it was nice to kind of get to know everyone that way, and yeah, it's really fun. I love Armando's work. I've been a fan for years, so to now get to work with him and work with all the brilliant actors that he attracts to his work, and, you know, his group of amazing writers, and to then get to kind of, you know, impro and play with it on the day and just have fun, it's a real joy. So it's nice to kind of have that to go around all this great press that I'm doing for the movie as well. It's nice to kind of go and do that at the same
Do you have
time.
a favorite Armando piece? Are you a Veep guy? Thick of it.
Yeah, the thick of it was kind of, and I could still just sit and watch that over and over again. You know, it's just so, it's terrifyingly prescient in a lot of ways and terrifyingly true.
That unfortunately happens with a lot of his shows. I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, I guess. Yeah. You have written an essay on race and television and representation of South Asian families on shows. Did you bring any of that knowledge to Yesterday? Like when you were filming scenes with your family in the movie, were you like, hey, here's how I would do it? Or anything?
Not necessarily. I think with a film like this, what was positive about it was that Jack was cast, the net was cast wide for the casting of Jack. They were looking at people from all sorts of different backgrounds, and you know, because the role isn't one that really needs a specific viewpoint in that way. So in that sense, the identity was kind of, it was just there. It was just, you know, the fact that I was the right guy for the role was great, and then we've just got, you know, someone of my background playing the role, which is a really positive step in the right direction. But you feel a certain responsibility, I guess, when you're given an opportunity like this, and you realise that it is kind of potentially a bit of a watershed moment, that you kind of know that you really got to give it your all and give your A game, because it could, otherwise you might be squandering an opportunity to change the narrative on things like that. So it was part of the, you know, many reasons that I was galvanised to make sure that I really worked hard on this one.
I read that you are very into roles in which you're like telling history that hasn't been taught.
Sure, yeah.
If you know, have a story in mind, you know, here's a $300 million to make a crazy movie, what would you want to do?
I've been recently looking at stories about Indian soldiers in the World Wars, and yeah, I'm still doing my research, but there's some stories there that I think could be told. So I'm kind of diving in there and just seeing what we can dig up and see if there's stories there to be told. Yeah.
Please make some noise for Mr. Jack Malik.